Hello and welcome to another video. Today I'm going to be talking about if you should buy the HD 550 from Sennheiser. Now I do not have this headphone, but I do have the 560S and I daily drove that for more than 2 years. And I will say if you've had the 560S and you like it, you like the sound, you like the comfort, you don't find it too clampy. I mean, it is pretty tight on the clamping force, but if you don't really mind that, then I don't really suggest upgrading to the 550 or even the 505, because the 505 is more of a really big treble reduction for the 560S, and that's kind of the biggest change, honestly, and the comfort. Like, there's less clamping force and there's less treble. But the 550, there's a little more treble than the 505, and there's more bass. So I think just overall, the best pick there, if you don't have the 560S especially, is to probably just get the 550 and not the 505, unless you want a little bit thinner mids and less bass. Which the 505 does have, but again, I think for most people, the 550 will be the better choice there. And again, if you don't have the 560S already, I can recommend probably just getting the 550, because I do not have, again, the 550 in hand, because, you know, it's not even fully released yet. It's only on pre-order, but I do have the 560S, and I do really like the 560S. But I do find it a little fatiguing over time. I do like the amount of treble it has. It's exciting. It's like fun to listen to. But the problem is it's also fatiguing because it's so fun to listen to. So yeah, I think over long periods of time, I think a lot of people will find it to be just fatiguing and not wanting to wear it for multiple hours. So that's where, again, I think the 550 is like a nice middle ground between the HD 600 sound and the HD 560S. I think it's a great middle ground, and from what I've heard, basically everybody else thinks that way as well. I will say that, again, if you have the 560S already and you like it, you are fine with the amount of treble it has, you don't find it like too fatiguing, and you're fine with the clamping force, then again, I can't really recommend going for the 550 because it's $300, which is pretty reasonable, I would say, but also just, again, it's not that big of an upgrade from the 560S. Again, it just has a little less treble and more bass and maybe a little bit better soundstage and imaging for gaming. But the 560S are already really good headphones. Like, they're very good for gaming. I have played like several games with the 560Ss and have had no problem at all. Yeah, it's just a really, really great gaming headphone even still. And it's a lot cheaper than the 550. Now, that is kind of a given because the 560S has been out a lot longer, but I will say that on sale, the 560S is from anywhere to like 150 to 180. Meanwhile, again, the 550 is like 300. So I think, honestly, if you want to go for a more budget-oriented headphone, the 560S or the 6XX are probably better choices. But if you have a little more money to spend, if you're in like the $300 range and you want a very neutral sound with a little recessed treble that's not like too bright so it's not fatiguing, then I think the 550, again, is a great choice. And if you also want a little bit more bass than, you know, the standard Sennheiser sound, then again, the 550 is probably the way to go because it's a nice middle ground between the 560S and the 600 in terms of sound, which I have been wanting for a while. But again, I don't think I will get the 550 even when it comes out because, again, I already have the AU and AR5000. And actually, from what I've heard as well, other planars that are in this $300 price bracket are actually more detailed. It can just pick up sounds a little bit better. There's a little bit more, a better like separation between the instruments. It doesn't sound like as boxy, if that makes sense, and not as like closed in as the 500 series does. I'm not sure if this is because of like the chassis or whatever, but yeah, from what I've heard, the AU and AR5000 and like the Sundara and stuff like that are a little bit more detailed than the 500 series, but the 500 series is not like bad in terms of the detail, but it's just not as good as like planars because it is kind of hard to beat planars in terms of detail. But besides that, that is kind of it. Again, this is just the final words before I leave. Basically, I'm sorry, I completely fucked up my English there, but basically, if you have the 560S already and you are happy with it, I don't really recommend getting the 550 because, again, it's $300, so it's a little pricey. And also, again, it just kind of makes modest improvements over the 560S, and whether those are improvements to you is up to you. Just look at like the graphs or whatever, and just my own just take on it and stuff like that to just basically form your own opinion on it before getting it. Because again, if you have the 560S already, you like it, I can't really recommend the 550. If you don't have the 560S already and you want a neutral sound signature, and you don't really care about like details or like a big, super wide soundstage, then yeah, the 550 is a great choice. But besides that, that is basically it, and I will see you guys later. Goodbye.